Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the North Suburban Library District. Today we have Terry Warman, and she is affiliated with the AARP in this talk. And she will be giving you some basic information on how to get started with your iPhone. Thank you, Terry.
Oh, thank you, Nicole, so much for having me here. And hello, everyone, and welcome to our basic iPhone 101 presentation. And I do want to give a special thank you to North Suburban Library District for inviting me to speak to you today. So today's presentation is geared towards individuals who are rather new to your Apple iPhone, or perhaps for those of you who have been using your phone mostly for making calls and now want to expand your knowledge and abilities. I'll be providing many tips as we go through this talk. And no matter what version of the Apple iPhone you have, you should be able to find these items on your phone as well. And at the end, I am going to give you some resources so that you can keep learning about your iPhone and its abilities. So all iPhones have these basic key features. So number one, we're talking about the front-facing camera, and that's typically where the camera that's used for selfies. And we will talk more about that when we talk about photos in a little bit. Number two is actually an important switch. It's your mute switch, and it determines whether the iPhone is making sounds like ringing when you get a call come in, or making an alert noise for notifications like receiving a text. If you slide that button forward towards the front of your iPhone, then that means that the mute button is not on, so you will be able to hear your phone ring or other notifications. If you slide it towards the back of your iPhone, it will mute all of the sounds. And when it's muted, if you look at that switch, it's going to be orange. Now, if you keep missing phone calls, you might want to check that switch first, as you might have accidentally switched it to mute, and that way you can redo it. I actually have my phone. I switched my mute switch to on, so hopefully you won't hear my phone ringing. So 3 and 4 is the volume up and volume down buttons. The upper button increases the volume, the lower one decreases it. And depending on what you're doing, listening to music, for example, it would control the volume for the music. Most of the time, though, it's really controlling the volume for our phone ringer. So that's a great way. If you're not hearing it, you can put it up, or if it's a little too loud, you can put it back down. So now number 5 at the bottom is your home button. And that's one of the most important buttons that you often use, because that, when you press that, takes you to your home screen or your starting screen, where most of your iPhone activities are located. And the photo you see of this phone is actually showing you that home screen. So if you're someplace on your phone and you can't figure out how to get out of it or get back to your home screen, just hit that home button and it will take you right back to that home screen. And we're going to talk a little bit more about other uses for that home button as we go through the presentation. And then number 6 is your lock screen and your turn off and turn on button. So if you press that button once, it will actually lock your iPhone screen, and it just kind of puts it to sleep. So you'll see your screen go black. If you press it again, it wakes up the iPhone from sleep mode. If you press that button and either one of your volume buttons, that will help to turn your phone off completely. If when your phone is turned off, no matter what you do, you hit your home button or whatever, and it's not doing anything, likely the turn off and on button got turned your phone off. So you can go back and press down that button, number 6, until you start seeing the Apple logo, start coming on your screen. That means it's turning on. It may take a couple of seconds for the iPhone to fully turn on. And here's kind of a tip that sometimes if you're using your phone and it seems to freeze or you're in an app and you just you can't get anywhere, you can't get anything to work. If you haven't turned your phone off in a while, I would suggest you go ahead, power it down, give it 10 or 15 seconds, and then turn it back on. And often that will help reset the phone, and you're back on track. Now at the very bottom, you see headphone jack, and that's with phones that have that home button. And I'm going to show you what newer phones have in just a second. But that's the old headphone jack where you could plug in a set of headphones or earbuds in order to listen to music or whatever, perhaps when you're in a car or on a plane, etc. You can, and then that lightning charging port down there, it's at the edge of your phone. That's where we're going to charge up our phones. All of our phones come with the adapter, that USB cable that comes with our phone. You plug it in there, and then you can either plug it into your computer or into the electrical wall outlet and be able to charge your phone. It's called a lightning port on newer phones because the newer phones actually don't have the headphone jack anymore. And so that lightning port is where we not only charge our phones, but also where we can plug in headphones or earbuds, etc. So let's go to the next slide. Now, so here's an example of a newer phone, and this is actually like the phone that I have. Newer phones do not have that traditional home button. So if you were sitting there looking at your phone and you're thinking, I don't have that home button, Terry, it's because you have a newer phone. And so for the newer phones, you see instead of the button, there is that white line at the bottom of the screen. And what you do to go to your home page or your home screen, you actually take your finger and you just press up. Oops, I'm not logged in yet, but it will take you to your home screen. And one of the things about iPhones is that when we're using our phones, we're mostly tapping, swiping either up or down or side to side. So it's not really hard, it's swiping. And for those of you who may have a newer phone, if things aren't working, you just need to kind of keep playing with it a little bit till you find that right way of that touch. So it can be tricky sometimes, but once you get the hang of it, it really works out. All right. Now the other side of our phone, the back side of our phones have a camera. Depending on what kind of iPhone you have, you could have one. In the case of this phone, there is one camera. Some of them have two. On the really, really new ones, they have even three cameras. And that's the camera for your regular camera on the iPhone. And that's the one that takes pictures and videos, which we'll talk about more later. It's not the one that takes the selfies. And again, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Number two, you notice that there is a microphone there at the top. There's also another one, and that one actually is used especially for when you are making videos, and it's actually picking up the sound. You also notice at the bottom there is a microphone there as well. And also a speaker. So when you're talking on your phone, and actually the speaker down there is picking up your voice as you're talking to somebody. There's also a microphone on the front end because that's how you're hearing it. Now, for some reason, you're listening to music or something, and there's a lot of noise in the background. And you're having kind of a hard time just hearing the music while you're sitting there like this, you can actually tilt this up and put the microphone closer to your ear, and you actually may be able to hear it better when you're in a noisy area. Finally, one of the most important things that I like about phones, the iPhones these days, and we all have them, it's a flashlight. And actually, let me find my flashlight. Oops, see, I have a flashlight. And so this is a great feature because it's definitely something that we all can use in an emergency or whatever. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So important on your home screen, there are a couple of things that we all have on our home screens. Now, as I said, I have a newer version of the iPhone. So while I have the same kinds of things that we're talking about here, mine are oriented on the screen a little bit differently. As a matter of fact, mine are exactly the opposite. So that number one, that service provider and signal strength, that signal strength, those little bubbles are telling us how strong is the cellular signal being provided to my phone. You notice there are 5 little bubbles there. This one has 2 of them highlighted, so it's kind of maybe medium strong. You usually can tell if you don't have a good connection. If you look at those bubbles, you probably got 1 or 2 of them going strong. Next to that is AT&T. That happens to be the service provider for this phone. So that's the company that you pay your money to every month for your service plan. On my particular phone, it's actually in a different spot. Number 2 is your Wi-Fi connection. So that if you see that little symbol there, that's telling you that you are connected to the Wi-Fi network. Most phones have number 3, it's a time. Mine again is on another screen, but this is very typical for many phones. And then on the right-hand corner, number 4, that's talking about your battery. That's your battery life. So how much relative level of charge does your phone have right now? So with that little icon, it's showing your battery's probably about 50% charged. Now, if you look up there and you see a red bar, that means that your battery only has about 20% power left. And so it's definitely time to charge up your battery. And number 4B, it's showing you what that little battery looks like when it's charging. If you see that lightning bolt there to the right of it, it's telling you that in fact your phone is charging. Now, if you start charging your phone other than perhaps at home, and I did it one time at an airport, and I plugged in my charger for my phone into an outlet that was underneath the seat. And so I set my phone aside and I thought I was charging it up. And just before I got on the plane, I looked down and I realized, well, why isn't it? Oh, it wasn't charging. And I didn't see the lightning bolt. And it was because that particular outlet was not working. So make sure that you check for that little lightning bolt because that can give you a good idea of whether your phone is charging. All right. All iPhones have basic apps that start on your home screen. And they're basic to all iPhones. Some of the newer iPhones may have something in addition to the ones that we're seeing on this particular phone. And each app really has its own specific job that it needs to fulfill. So, or just very quickly, because we're going to talk about a number of these in just a second. So that first one, that green messages, that's the one that you would tap on if you want to send a text message. You actually have a camera. The photos, and on many, and we'll talk about this more, but that photos is if you take a photo with your camera app that's next to it, that picture automatically goes to your photo library or your photo album. On this particular phone, there is a video where the videos go that are recorded. On my particular phone, I only have the camera and the photos. So when I take photos or videos, they automatically go to my photos folder. You can check weather, maps, you have a clock, which by the way, if you've never looked at it, and I just recently learned this, I don't know why I didn't know before, that the clock app on your phone is actually the right time. You notice that the clock says 3:11, and so does the phone at the top. So if you ever want to know what time it is, let's see, FaceTime, we're going to talk about making phone calls. You already know that one, I'm sure. Perhaps sending emails. The Safari app is the one that you can tap and be able to get yourself to the internet to look things up. Contacts we're going to talk about. And just very quickly, that App Store is what we have on our Apple iPhones. And you can tap on that and it shows you all of these new apps that are available to you. Let me just tell you a very quick story. So my father, who died a couple of years ago, he loved apps. He loved his phone, he loved apps. And at one point, when he got a new phone and he was going to try to transfer his apps over to his new phone, he realized he had 400 apps, which is crazy. He had like 5 weather apps and he had 3 map apps. He just had all of these apps. But he also kept complaining about the fact that his battery tended to drain much faster. And I said, Dad, I think it's because you have 400 apps on your phone. Do you really need them all? And so one of the things that was also draining his phone is the fact that when we touch on an app, it opens up and we can do, whatever we need to do with that. And sometimes, for example, on the right side, the first app I pulled up was my Maps app. And I was looking for something and for a trip I was going to take in 2 days. And I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder what the weather's going to be like there. So I pulled up. So I hit the home button, which took me back to my home screen. I then clicked on the weather app and it took me there. And then I thought of something I needed to do with my settings app. And so I hit my home button and went back and hit my settings. Well, each time that I hit that home button and went back, those apps are still open. And so that was also the other thing that my dad kept doing. And he would have, 15, 20 or more apps that are still open. So when I go back to the homepage, it's kind of like those apps are just on the other side of that homepage. So here's something I would suggest. This is a quick and easy way to close all of those open apps so that they're not running down your memory and possibly using some of your data. So for those of you who have a home button, if you double tap on that home button, it will bring up all of the apps that you have open. And you actually can take your finger and scroll lightly back and forth on the screen to see which one of them are. And this person has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have almost 6 apps that are open. Once you have them open, I often will do that and then just close them all, but maybe there's 2 or 3 that you want to close, find those. And then if you take your finger and swipe up on each one of those open apps, you'll see it go up into the air and go away. It'll close it. So that way, and I would suggest you do it every day so that, all of those apps are closed. They're not taking down your battery, etc. And you don't end up with like my dad with all of those things open. Loved my dad. He was so great with that phone. But he definitely, like I said, loved his apps. Okay, so there is an easy way to get a quick access to a number of the areas of your iPhone with just a few taps. And so this is called the Control Center. And we're going to talk about some of the basics that you see in the Control Center. So here's what we do. if your phone has a home button, you can tap the screen on your home page and you swipe up, tap at the bottom and right near those three little dots and just slide up. And this control center opens up onto your phone. Now, on my particular phone, again, because I don't have that home button and I actually have the line down below, then I actually will go to the top right corner of my phone and I swipe down, and the same thing happens. So, for those of you who have a home button, get to your home screen, swipe up from the bottom, and it'll show up. For those of us who have a no home button, just grab in that top right corner and bring it down. Now, there are 14 things that are there on that screen. And so these help you to just very quickly be able to make changes without having to go to the various parts of your iPhone where these are associated with. So airplane mode is the first one up there. You see the airplane. If you're on a plane or something, often they say, we're now getting ready for takeoff. Please put your devices in airplane mode or turn them off. So you can actually open your control center and you can tap that airplane. It'll turn orange. And that means that your phone is no longer transmitting or receiving signals. So you can't make a phone call, etc. One of the things you can do, though, is let's say you're by the airplane window and you look up and you think, oh man, I would really like to take a picture. That is so cool. Well, even in airplane mode, you can take a picture with your phone. Then when you you land or someplace else, you just tap again, that will turn gray and your airplane mode is off. Number 2, your cellular data. If for some reason you needed to turn on or off your phone's ability to use data or access your internet. If you have a plan that has unlimited minutes, you may not have to do this much. But if you are someone who has a data plan that has a certain number of minutes and you're afraid that you're going to go over, you may be able to go ahead and tap that, which stops it from using the cellular data. The control audio, again, certainly you can use the buttons on your side of your phone, but if you have it open, let's say you're playing music, you can actually hit play, you can skip, you can play back audio or whatever with that particular audio control, number 3. Number 4 turns off and on your phone's ability to connect to Wi-Fi. Number 5 is connecting to Bluetooth devices, and especially on our newer phones, I can turn that on. And instead of plugging in my headphones, for example, into my phone, if I have my phone turned on to Bluetooth and it's set up with my phone, I can actually listen to things without connecting my phone physically to my phone. Number 6 is a rotation lock. And if you notice that your phone often, we can look at things this way. And for some things like pictures and other things, you can also turn it this way and you can view it this sideways as well. On occasion, you may want to lock your phone so it stays in this upright position. For example, perhaps I am looking at some pictures and I have one up that I'm with some friends and I want to show them. So I pass my phone around. Every time you kind of turn the phone a little bit, the picture that was looking this way, it starts moving. I can put that rotation lock on and it will keep the picture straight like I want it to, no matter how I pass it around. So it can be a great thing. Tip, if for some reason your phone, usually you can make pictures, upright or horizontal and it's not doing that, check to make sure that you didn't inadvertently put your rotation lock on, and then you can turn it off. Number 7 is a quick way to do do not disturb. Again, you can use the mute button on the side of your phone. But if you've got this open, you can hit that real quick, sitting in church or someplace, and you want to make sure that your phone's not making noises, you can turn that off. Number 8 is brightness. And this is a way of making your iPhone screen darker or brighter. And I've used it a couple of times if I'm outside in really bright sunshine. I'm looking at my phone and I can't really read it. That if you go in there for your brightness, you can lighten or darken it enough that you actually will be able to read your phone. The audio control, again, just if you're in your control center, you could do that there without using your side ones. Your flashlight, there's your flashlight. So it turns it on and off. You press down on that and it will turn on your flashlight. Press again and it turns it off. Number 12 is your timer. And this literally will, I need a way to keep track of the 9-minute eggs. You can actually hit that. It's got a timer and you can set it and it will go off to let you know. You have a calculator, number 13, and also your camera, and we're going to talk more about that. So this is just kind of a quick way of being able to access some of those controls. All right, making calls and creating contacts. We all use our phones for making and receiving calls, but I wanted to give you a couple of tips on how you might be able to more fully use that phone feature and perhaps make some things easier. So obviously you tap the phone icon, number 1 on your home screen to open up your phone so that you can, and I'm not sure if you've noticed or paid much attention at the very bottom of that phone screen. You see that you have number 2 is a favorites feature. So if you've saved some contacts of people that you call a whole lot, you can actually add them there. Number 2 will show you all of your recent calls, both ones that you've answered or you've made yourself, or the ones you've missed. Number 4 is your contacts, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but that's where you can create contacts for your friends and family. Number 5 is often what we see is that keyboard that comes up with the numbers. We punch in and go. And then number 6 is where you can view and listen to your voicemails. So in favorites, you can actually add a new favorite, and you have that plus sign up at the top, and add someone in, put in their phone number, their name and their phone number, and that will put those people in. So those are really, you have 5, 10 people or so, your family that you call a lot. That can be a great place to put that. If you need to change something on it or remove someone from your favorites list, you can hit the number 2, the edit button, and that will allow you to do that. If you go to recent, you can, you notice that you can, up at the top, number 3, you have all and missed. And so the all is blue right now. Tap that and it's blue. It's showing you all of the calls that you've done, including FaceTime. And you can tell which ones you have not answered or didn't take. You can also, and I do this often, hit the missed, and it shows all the calls that either you didn't realize that you had or you couldn't take that call at that time. A lot of times I have this spam risk or numbers that I've looked down and said, I know that's a telemarketer. So you can actually go in there, and with the edit button, you can hit edit, and red dots come next to each one of those phone numbers. And you can literally hit a red dot. It'll ask you if you want to delete it. press on the delete and that will go away. So it's a great way of being able to clean up your recent phone numbers off of your phone. So this is obviously number 4. Again, it's your keyboard. And for the voicemail, you can actually set up your own greeting or change one if you hit number 5, greeting, and it'll walk you through either doing your own, or you can hear what the default one is. You can also edit. So if I have any voicemails here that I either haven't listened to or I did listen to it and I went on to something else, you can also hit the edit and delete any of the old voicemails that you've already listened to. Just delete them away. Creating contacts, and this is fast and easy way to store info on your iPhone. You can also do it on your iPad. So you can hit the contact button, and for many of you, you may hit that and there's nothing there. But you go to your home screen, then hit the phone icon, and then at the bottom, hit contacts. And you can actually add a new contact by hitting the plus sign at the top. The picture on the right-hand side, normally it would come up first name, last name, title, organization, etc. You can add a phone, work, mobile, you can decide which one, you can add another one, you can add emails. That red dot means that if you don't want that one anymore, you can hit that and it'll immediately delete it. You also can, if you have a great shot of maybe it's your sister-in-law's contact that you just put in, and you've got a great picture of her in your photo album, you could actually edit the little empty space and put in a photo of that person. You also in your contacts can add address, etc. So it can be a really convenient place of being able in a one-stop shop to find out the contact info for any one of the people that you talk to a lot. It's a great feature if you haven't used it. All right, now text messages. I don't know if you are using them or not, but they are a quick and easy way to send a message. You can also send pictures to people. So for messages, up left-hand corner. Now your messages could be somewhere else on your screen, depending on how things are set up, but you're looking for that message icon. When it comes up, for many of you, if you haven't used it before, it's likely blank like this. I text people often, so I have a bunch of people that I text often. So their messages, their kind of previously started messages are there already. So if I want to send somebody another text, I just hit that person's name and that message stuff comes up. Otherwise, if you'd like to start a new one, you see at number 2, it looks like a pencil on a piece of paper. Hit that and your new message comes up. You can either type in the cell phone number of the person that you want to send a text to, or if you can put in a name, and you can also find names again for see number 4, there's a plus sign in that circle. If you hit that, your contact list will come up and you can find the person that you want to put in. You hit that and their cell phone number or will automatically populate into that area because your messages and your contacts, they talk to each other. And then we go here. And here's some quick tips on text message screen for your iPhone. So obviously at the top, you've already put the phone in or you've got the person's name in there. And if you look to the right of number 1 and number 2, it's obviously that open space. That's where you're going to be typing in letters, words. But here's some other things. So number 1, you see the little camera. This actually, if you hit that, it allows you to either hit it and take a picture right now, and it'll show up in your text, or it'll ask you if you want to use a photo that you already have. If you hit that, it'll take you to your photo album and you can pick one, hit done, and it shows up in your text. You can add a little, hey, look who I just saw. You just took a picture of your two friends and you sent it off to somebody. Number two is if you've ever got it something where there's like this funny video or something that a person that keeps doing the same motion, it's called a GIF. You can also draw a picture and send to someone, but you might check that out sometime. Just hit the GIF and it'll show you all different kinds of things. You can actually type in something, looking for happy birthday, and it shows you all different kinds of things. Now, for typing in, most of you probably know that your keyboard always starts out with letters. And if you, for number 3, so that's where you're going to be capitalizing letters. So if you, when it's just gray, it's all lowercase letters. If you were to tap that once, you get that white square with the black arrow in it. That means that it's going to capitalize the first letter of the word that you start to type, and then the rest is lowercase. If you hit that arrow twice, it's also the white background, but it now has the black arrow with a little bar underneath it. That means everything that you type is going to be in capital letters. So you start typing and you look up and it's like, whoa, that's all capital letters. That's why. And just kind of a side note for that, some people, if you type in things that are all in capital letters, sometimes it sounds like you're shouting, even though you're not, but it kind of looks like, oh my gosh, she's sort of shouting, or he's shouting at me. So try not to use all caps too often. If you're done with the all caps, just hit the arrow again and it goes back to gray. Number 4, if you tap on that 1, 2, 3, that switches your keyboard from letters to numbers and symbols. And you can go back and forth actually between those numbers and the arrow above it to add perhaps numbers for your address, and then you hit and it's the letters. Number 5, you can tap there and it opens up your emoji possibilities, and those are all those little smiley faces, animals, flowers, all kinds of things that you can add to your text. And when you're done, just hit it again and it goes away. The final one is the microphone that's at the bottom. And that is, if you hit that, it will actually, you can talk into your phone, and Siri, or the program that will help you do this, will actually type in what you say into that little text box. When you're done, you can hit the microphone again and it will stop the voice to text option. Now, here's the one tip that I'm offering you very strongly. Once you've hit that microphone again and you've stopped with the voice to text, read the text first before you send it. If that voice to text doesn't recognize your voice as well, that it may type in words that it thought you said because it didn't quite understand you and it's trying to figure out what you might have said and types it in. So read the text before you send it, because you may have something there that was not what you said at all. And once you send it, you can't take it back. So read it. You can edit it and change it. But yeah, I've had that happen once or twice where I've sent off something, it's like, oh, or I get a text from somebody, it's like, did you mean that? And they email back and go, no. All right, camera. A couple of quick things with your camera. As we talked about earlier, there are 3 apps that are involved with this. Your photo library, where all your photos go from your camera. Some older iPhones may have this video library number 3. So if I'm in my camera app and I take a photo, it goes to my photo library. In older phones, if you took a video, it might go to your video library. On my phone, a newer phone, I have the photo and the camera and not the video. So if I take a picture or a video, they both go into my photo library. Again, um, when your phone is facing to you, that's your front-facing camera. That is best for selfies and for video conferencing like FaceTime, which we're going to talk about in a second. And that's because that camera takes what they call lower resolution images, which really just means that it's not as crisp, it's not as clean, um, it's just not as good as the photos that the rear facing camera will take. So that's why it's good for selfies and that video conferencing kinds of things. But if you want a really high resolution, very crisp, very bright, etc., photo or video, you definitely want to use the rear facing camera. So if you tap on your camera icon, um, what you'll see is the camera will open and it's your back-facing photo. And so you'll suddenly see what your camera is seeing on the other side of your camera. And the camera app always defaults to photo first. And you see in number 2 that you see that photo is a different color. So that means that right now it's ready to take a photo. And when you're ready to take that photo, you hold it up and you can hit that white button. It'll take the photo. If you've taken the photo and it did it, it will show up in the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see a little box that has the photo that you took. You can tap on that if you want to see it, if you want to decide if you want to keep it, or you can ignore it. You can check those things later. One other thing that you can do that sometimes when you're doing photos with that white button, usually means, you're holding and then you have to sort of tap with your other hand. If that's kind of hard or you're doing something else and you want to take a photo, you can hold your camera and you can actually press either one of your volume buttons. And I usually do the top one, and I can get my photo ready and I just click that button and it will also take a picture. So you don't have to do two-handed things. That's just a tip. Now, selfies, the third column here. Number 4, you see the little camera and it has the 2 arrows that are going in a circle. If you tap that, you've now switched that back facing to your front facing. So now you suddenly are looking at yourself and you're ready to take a selfie. So you can hit that. Now you see yourself, or maybe you've seen people do this all the time. They're with a bunch of friends and they have their phone up and you've got all these people and they take a photo. So that's a selfie. And notice again, once you take that picture, it's showing up in the bottom left-hand corner. So you know that in fact that photo happened. And then if you want to go back to taking other photos, just hit that again and your lovely face will disappear from the screen. The other thing, if you do want to take a video, you actually then will take your finger and you actually drag from the right side to the left, right side to the left of your phone, and that will actually move that little bar over to video. And then you suddenly see the video is highlighted in yellow and the button now becomes red. And you also notice at the top that you have a timer. So it could do hours, minutes, and seconds. And so when you're ready to start the video, hit the red button and you'll start to see the timer is going quickly. I mean, the timer starts. So when you're done, you hit that red button again, and the video again will show up, the start of that video in the bottom left-hand corner, and it will go off to either your photo library or your video library. One hint, I think, is if you were wanting to take a quick video and send it off to a friend via text, text can't take big videos. So I usually, it's snowing a lot outside and I want to send a video, which I often do to my friend in Florida. And I will take like a 10-second to 15-second video, not much more than that. And then I can send a text and send her that video. If it gets much bigger than that for text, it can't send it because it's just too much video for it to be able to send. Otherwise, make as long a video as you want. It'll save it to your phone, and you can show people later the great event or something else that you were at. Video calls, just wanted to quickly let you know about this. Again, those of us who have Apple iPhones have a FaceTime app, looks like a little camera and a green background. And it allows us to make video or audio only calls with our iPhone or iPad to other iPhone product users or Apple product users. And each device will be able to communicate over a network. If you can use Wi-Fi, it means that when you use FaceTime, it's free. Otherwise, you can still do FaceTime if you're not on Wi-Fi, but it does mean that it will start using your data plan minutes for the time that you're on it. So just keep that in mind. So I hit the FaceTime. I can, if you don't have anybody in your contacts, you can actually type in someone's cell phone number and hit the FaceTime video number 3. Or you can tap contacts and you can go there and notice it says FaceTime and you can hit that video and it will automatically start calling the other person and letting them know that you want to FaceTime with them. So if someone says, you want to FaceTime, this is what it means. You can, when you're on FaceTime, you've got that red number 6, you can end the call. You can switch the camera to rear facing if you wanted to, I guess, if you wanted to show somebody something that you're seeing. The other thing, notice number 7, that is a microphone that when it has that line, that slash through that microphone, it means that you are on mute. So the other person can't hear you. The video is still active, but they can't hear you. Now, you may do that if you're on a FaceTime with someone and suddenly someone yells from the other room and you need to answer them, but you don't necessarily want that person to hear what you're saying. You can hit that button. It'll mute you. You can answer the other person, come back, hit that again, and now you can continue your conversation with the person that you're having FaceTime with. It's a great thing. You can actually add a couple of different people on the same FaceTime as well. And we'll give you some resources to find more information about that. Somebody else actually may be sending you a FaceTime. And if it's a great time and you really want to FaceTime with that person, you can hit that green accept button. Or if it's just not a good time right now, you can decline it. You can also, number 2, a reminding me, oh yeah, Lori called me, remind me in an hour when I'm done with my meeting or when I leave or when I get home so I can remember to call her. The message can be really nice if you're driving, for example, and somebody is trying to FaceTime you or maybe you're in a meeting and someone tries to FaceTime you, and you want to just send a quick message. So you hit message, and you could actually hit, sorry, I can't talk right now. They get that message. I'm on my way. Can I call you later, etc. So it can be a quick and easy way to let that person know without stopping what you're doing right at that moment. All right. I have given you a great deal of information very quickly. So I want to give you a couple of resources, but I know some of you are probably thinking, Terry, I don't remember what kind of iPhone I have. I know I have an iPhone, but I don't know what it is. So here's a way to find that out. So if you tap on your settings button, and the first picture shows actually what we see with settings. And at some other time, we could do a presentation on just your settings and how you can change things there. But for this particular presentation, this is what you would see. And up there at the top, with that little arrowhead, if you tap on that, right where the orange arrow is showing you, it'll take you to this next screen. And that screen is actually at the very bottom. You notice that it says Terry's iPhone. That's me, or Teresa. That's me. This iPhone XR. Oh, so I again hit that arrowhead, and the next screen comes up. And now it's showing me that the model iPhone that I have is an iPhone XR. It could say iPhone 8. It could say iPhone R. So I have an iPhone XR, and I also have an iOS version 14.4. iOS is really, it's just telling us which version of my phone's operating system it's running. And that operating system really controls most of the operations in the iPhone. It gets updated to add new features, make improvements, fix problems. Sometimes they figure out they call them bugs, but there's something that's just not quite working with the iPhone, the new version. And so they'll figure out a fix for it. And about once a year, there will be a major update. Version 14 is the latest right now. The phone that for this particular presentation, a lot of the pictures were actually for an iPhone that had an operating system 11. And many of the phones that some of you have probably have that. So here's some information. For that particular phone, this person was able to use this web address, web address, and be able to get information about the operating system 11. Also, the next one was for being able to, in general, kind of have a guide for how iPhones work. AARP certainly had two presentations that you might check out. The Intro to iPad actually had more information about iPhones as well. That personal technology one kind of talked about even more technologies in general. The reason why I did that slide before, so you knew which kind of phone you had, is that I don't know if you've ever used YouTube, but youtube.com is a great place to go. And there are videos, there are probably millions of videos these days. And you can type in just about search for anything. And somebody has made a video on how to do it. And so you might type into the search iPhone basics for, and now I know my phone is an iPhone XR, so I might put basics for iPhone XR. It pulls up all of those videos. iPhone basics for iPhone 6 or iPhone 8. And I checked some of them out, and there are videos that could be 15 minutes up to over an hour and just take you through all of these things. So I hope this was helpful. I know it was fast and quick. but I'm hoping that this will at least help you make yourself a little more iPhone friendly. And again, Nicole and North Suburban Library District, thank you so much for having me here today.
Thank you, Terry, and thank you everyone for tuning in.